The Pilgrims were a group of people who wanted religious freedom. They were seeking a place where they could practice their beliefs without fear of persecution. In England, they faced many challenges and restrictions that made it difficult for them to live according to their faith. They left England to find a new home. Saying goodbye to their friends and family, they embarked on a journey filled with hope and uncertainty. They boarded a ship called the Mayflower, which would carry them across the vast ocean to a land unknown to them.
In 1620, they sailed across the Atlantic Ocean on a ship called the Mayflower. The voyage was treacherous, with the ship facing strong winds and towering waves. The Pilgrims had to endure cramped conditions and the constant motion of the sea. The journey was long and difficult. The Pilgrims encountered numerous storms that tested their resolve and strength. The rough seas made it hard to sleep, and the lack of fresh food and clean water took a toll on their health. Many pilgrims got sick on the ship. The confined space and poor living conditions led to widespread illness. Despite these hardships, they held on to their faith and the hope of a better life in the New World.
After 66 days at sea, the Pilgrims finally landed. Their long and arduous journey had come to an end. They were filled with relief and gratitude as they stepped onto solid ground for the first time in over 2 months. They arrived at a place they called Plymouth Rock. This new land was both a promise and a challenge. It represented the freedom they had longed for, but it also meant they had to start from scratch in an unfamiliar environment. It was a cold and unfamiliar land. The harsh winter weather was unlike anything they had experienced before. They had to quickly adapt to survive the freezing temperatures and the new landscape. The Pilgrims had to start a new life in this new world. They worked tirelessly to build homes and establish a community. Their determination and perseverance laid the foundation for what would become a thriving settlement. Despite the many challenges they faced, the Pilgrims' journey marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives and in the history of America.
The first winter in Plymouth was very hard for the Pilgrims. The cold was relentless and the snow seemed never-ending. The Pilgrims who had just arrived in this new and unfamiliar land were unprepared for the harsh conditions they faced. They didn't have enough food. Their supplies dwindled quickly and they were forced to ration what little they had. The Pilgrims had hoped to find more resources, but the winter made it nearly impossible to hunt or gather. Many Pilgrims got sick and died. The cold and lack of proper nutrition took a heavy toll on their health. Illnesses spread rapidly through the small community, and there were few remedies available to treat the sick. The Pilgrims had to learn how to survive in this new land. They began to hunt, fish, and farm, trying to adapt to their new environment. Every day was a struggle, but they were determined to make it through.
The houses the Pilgrims lived in were small and simple. These modest structures provided little protection against the harsh winter winds and freezing temperatures. They were made of wood and had thatched roofs. The Pilgrims had to gather materials from the surrounding forests, cutting down trees and using whatever they could find to build their homes. The Pilgrims had to cut down trees and build their own houses. It was a labor-intensive process, but it was necessary for their survival. Each family worked tirelessly to create a shelter that could withstand the elements. Life in the New World was difficult. The Pilgrims faced many challenges, from the brutal weather to the scarcity of food. Yet, despite these hardships, they remained hopeful and resilient, determined to build a new life in this unfamiliar land.
The Pilgrims were struggling to survive. They had faced a harsh winter and many of them were sick and weak. Food was scarce and they were unsure how they would make it through the next season. The situation seemed dire and hope was dwindling among the group. Luckily, they met a Native American named Squanto. Squanto was a member of the Patuxet tribe and had an incredible story of his own. He had been captured by English explorers years before and taken to Europe, where he learned English. Eventually, he made his way back to his homeland, only to find his tribe decimated by disease. Squanto spoke English and helped the Pilgrims. He understood their struggles and decided to assist them in their time of need. His knowledge of both the land and the English language made him an invaluable ally to the Pilgrims. He taught them how to plant corn, a crop that was new to the Pilgrims, but essential for their survival. Squanto showed them the best techniques for planting and tending to the corn, ensuring a successful harvest. And fish in the rivers. He demonstrated the most effective methods for catching fish, which provided a much-needed source of protein for the pilgrims. With Squanto's guidance, they learned to utilize the natural resources around them.
Squanto introduced the Pilgrims to the Wampanoag tribe. The Wampanoag were the native people of the land, and they had lived there for generations. They had a deep understanding of the environment and how to thrive in it. The Wampanoag were the native people of the land. They had a rich culture and a wealth of knowledge about the local flora and fauna. Their expertise was crucial for the Pilgrims, who were still learning how to adapt to their new surroundings. They taught the Pilgrims how to live off the land. The Wampanoag shared their agricultural techniques, showing the Pilgrims how to grow other essential crops like beans and squash. They also demonstrated advanced fishing and hunting methods, which were vital for the Pilgrims' sustenance. The Pilgrims and the Wampanoag became friends. This friendship was built on mutual respect and cooperation. They celebrated their first successful harvest together, which would later be remembered as the first Thanksgiving.
The Pilgrims and the Wampanoag became friends. This bond was a testament to the power of collaboration and understanding between different cultures. It marked the beginning of a new chapter for the Pilgrims, one filled with hope and promise for the future.
In the fall of 1621, the Pilgrims had a good harvest. They had plenty of food to eat. To celebrate, they invited the Wampanoag tribe to a feast. The feast lasted for 3 days.
They ate wild turkey, deer, fish, corn, squash, and cranberries.
And they played games and told stories.
This feast was a symbol of friendship and gratitude. Today, we celebrate Thanksgiving to remember the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag. We give thanks for the good things in our lives.
We gather with family and friends to share a special meal.
Thanksgiving is a time for gratitude, togetherness, and delicious food.
It's a time to remember the history of our country and the importance of friendship.